Bienvenidos, mis amigos. Today, we're going to be translating some English sentences to Spanish. They're going to be very easy, so be sure to practice as we go along. The first sentence is, he is happy. How do you say he in Spanish? Él. So knowing that we're going to be using él, how do you conjugate is in Spanish? Está. And how do you say happy? Feliz. Él está feliz. You say it too. Él está feliz. That was easy. Let's do the next one. She is from Mexico. How do you say she? Ella. The verb to be has two meanings in Spanish, ser or estar. In this case, we're going to be using es. She is, ella es, from, how do you say from? De México. Ella es de México. Your turn. Ella es de México. Let's take a look at another one. My son is tall. How do you say my? It actually has different meanings, but in this case is mi, because we're talking about a singular subject. How do you say son? Hijo. Is, how do you say is? In this case, es. Mi hijo es. And how do you say tall? Alto. Mi hijo es alto. Your turn to say it. Mi hijo es alto. The next sentence is, my house is big. We saw before that my means me. In this case, it still applies because house is singular. How do you say house? Casa. Mi casa es, and how do you say big? Grande. Mi casa es grande. Now you say it. Mi casa es grande. Very good. The coffee is very hot. The. How do you say the? In Spanish, we have to make sure that the gender and number match. So, the has 4 different meanings. In this case, it means el because coffee is masculine and it's a singular noun. How do you say coffee? Café. El café. And how do you say is? In this case, we're going to use está. El café está. A good way to remember ser versus estar is that ser is more permanent and estar can change. Because the coffee can certainly get cold, it's not a permanent state, so we use está. It doesn't always work like that, but it's a good rule to get you started. How do you say very? Muy. And hot? Caliente. El café está muy caliente. Your turn to say it. El café está muy caliente. Great job. Let's take a look at the next sentence. I live in the city. How do you say I in Spanish? Yo. Live. Vivo. As a side note, in Spanish, we don't need to add the pronouns as we do in English because the verbs are conjugated to the person. So we could just start at vivo. And how do you say in? En. The. So here, city is a feminine singular noun. We're going to use la. How do you say city? Ciudad. Yo vivo en la ciudad. Or vivo en la ciudad. Your turn to practice. Yo vivo en la ciudad. Next one is today is very cold. How do you say today? Hoy. Is. Está, because it's not permanent. And we saw how to say very. Do you remember? Muy cold. Frío. Hoy está muy frío. Go ahead and repeat that. Hoy está muy frío. Muy bien. Now let's take a look at a question. Where is the bathroom? Where? How do you say where? ¿Dónde? Is. Está. The. Bathroom is masculine singular. So we'll use el. And how do you say bathroom? Baño. ¿Dónde está el baño? Your turn. ¿Dónde está el baño? All right, the next one is Jack and Memo are friends. So usually the proper names do not change. Jack is Jack. How do you say and? E. This one's very common, just like in English. Make sure you remember that one. E. Memo, are. How do you say are? Son. Ellos son. How do you say friends? Amigos. Jack y Memo son amigos. Can you say that? Jack y Memo son amigos. So here we're conjugating are as son because we're talking about them. We're talking about they. Let's take a look at the next one. My birthday is in May. How do you say my? Mi. Birthday. Cumpleaños. We saw how to say is previously. Es. En. Mayo. Mi cumpleaños es en mayo. In Spanish, we don't need to capitalize the days or months like in English unless they start a sentence. Your turn to say it. Mi cumpleaños es en mayo. How do you say, how are you? Let's start with how. ¿Cómo? Are. So here, let's assume you is the informal singular pronoun. Estás. Tú. ¿Cómo estás tú? So of course you can mix and match here. You could change estás for están ellos. How are they? How is she? ¿Cómo está ella? Up until this point, we've been translating the English word to the Spanish one and leaving those words in the same order. It's very easy that way. It doesn't always work like that, but if you're just starting to learn Spanish, this is the way to learn it and practice it. Let's look at one that's a little bit more complicated. It's not that bad. But here we're using two verbs. I want to eat. How do you say I? Yo. And we conjugate want to the person. So here it would be quiero. To eat is in its infinitive form. In Spanish, those are the verbs that end in ior, ior, or aor. In this case, it's comer. Yo quiero comer. Unlike in English where we add to before the verb to make it infinitive, in Spanish, it's just the unconjugated verb. So I want to eat becomes yo quiero comer. Say it. Yo quiero comer. Very good. Let's take a look at another example similar to that one. You need to lose weight. How do you say you in the informal singular form? Tú. Need. Necesitas, because we're conjugating it to the person, to the pronoun. And we have the infinitive verb. To lose, in this case, is perder. And do you know how to say weight? Peso. Tú necesitas perder peso. Now you say it. Tú necesitas perder peso. All right, so here again we have 5 words in the English sentence, but in Spanish it's going to be 4 because of that second verb. Here's another example. I need to find my keys. How do you say I? Yo need, necesito, to find, that's the infinitive verb, encontrar. In this case, my is going to become mis because keys is in plural. How do you say keys? Llaves. Yo necesito encontrar mis llaves. Go ahead and say it. Yo necesito encontrar mis llaves. Very good. How about this one? I want to learn Spanish. How do you say I? Yo want, we already saw this one before. Quiero, to learn, so we're looking for a verb in its infinitive form ending in ER, IR, or AR. Aprender. Spanish, español. Yo quiero aprender español. I already have resources in the channel to help you out with the plural nouns and verb conjugations. I'm going to leave the links on the description. If you need to polish your Spanish vocabulary, I will leave you with the 100 most common words in Spanish. Be sure to watch it. Muchas gracias.